Alrighty, welcome to the Divine Podcast.
Welcome.
We have another guest this week, our boy TORY.
Yes, sir.
What's up, y'all?
I'll just get into it. I ain't got much to.
Give a little intro.
Yeah, a little intro. Give about yourself.
Tell the
Yeah.
people, you know.
Okay.
A little background check.
My name's TORY. I am a native of the 757 Newport News, Virginia.
Okay,
You know how we get
Shout
down.
out.
Yeah, shout out. I am 26, married, happily married.
Had that happily part to it.
Yeah, I add the happily part to it. Happily married,
about that.
and I met John
Yeah.
and my guy Cameron about, I'll say, 4 months ago now.
Yeah.
About 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we've just been rocking.
Yeah,
you
rocking,
know?
kicking it.
So, kicking, rocking it. I'm excited to be on the pod, though. It's real dope. So, I'm excited to see what we're about to jump into today.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be good. You know, my boy TORY, he's an amazing man of God. You know, the things that the Lord places on his heart, the knowledge that he has, you know, is pretty incredible. So,
Thanks, man.
you know, I hope that you guys get something out of it. You know, might want to take some notes on, you know, what's coming out of his heart. So, yeah.
Thanks, man.
I think this is my first time having like a sit-down conversation with you. I feel
Yeah.
like. I realized every time we've hung out, it's been like the ice skating,
Yeah.
which I just sat on the end and just like barely.
That boy's people watching.
I was a little people watching because
Yeah.
my feet was hurting me. I had the wrong
He was
size shoe.
killing us.
Now I
It's
know
tough.
I need to get a size higher. She said, well, I was like, I'm 11 and a half. She said, well, all I got is, was it? I don't have half. So like, you have to get, so I came up for 11. Not doing that again.
I think they was killing all of their feet.
What else did we go? Did we ever hung out?
Just be out, bro.
Yeah,
I thought we just meet you
be out and
places.
about.
Yeah. So we never like sit down and,
Yeah.
So let's see. I'll start with this. Where I don't know what is your background with church? So I know that for me and John, it's like we were brought up in it, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like just a part of life.
Yeah.
It's kind of a lifestyle
Yeah.
type. Well, not a lifestyle really, if you're being real. It was
Yeah.
just part of life.
Yeah,
we
it
had
was
to
just
do.
part of life,
Yeah. So like, what was your background with that? And then I'll ask you another question after that.
Yeah. So church for me, I grew up in church. I was always in church. I had to go to church, but I wanted to go to church. So I never had to be forced to go.
That's cool.
I played drums in church. So, fun fact, I was a praise dancer as well.
Oh, I gotta see those.
So you had the outfit on?
those
I had the
videos.
outfit.
I need those.
I had the outfit,
That's
and
wild.
one thing, I did that by choice, you know.
Okay.
So for me, I used to be bad, but I always loved God. Like Jesus was always my homie. Like I'll be bad, curse somebody out, and they'd be like, I gotta go to church. So like I was always rooted in my faith. So yeah, I praise dance and in school, people always used to pull up the video or the picture of me. With my hands up like this, with my all white on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I grew up in church. I was always in church. I love being in church. That's just where I don't know. I had so much fun there. And I used to play drums, so I guess going there was like it was exciting for me.
Yeah.
It was exciting.
All right, all white. What shoes were you wearing?
No shoes, no socks.
Okay, that's fair.
You know
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
You
Yeah,
gotta
right,
be barefoot, man.
right.
You're not as holy unless you got no shoes.
Right,
Nah,
you know,
that's-
it's a
Yeah, that's
sacred
fair.
place when
Yeah.
you're doing praise dance.
Facts.
Nice.
Where do you feel like, kind of for me, it was when I was 16, went to a youth camp.
Yeah,
You know, it's always a youth camp.
yeah,
And it's been a youth camp. It's always a youth camp every single year.
Yeah.
But this year for me was different, right? So like, that's when my walk with the Lord actually became like a carry my cross daily, or at least the desire to do that.
yeah.
I think that's where it starts, is having the desire, and then everything comes afterwards.
Yeah.
So like, do you feel like you've always had the desire, and if not, when did it kind of click? Okay, cool. I've been doing this, but it hasn't been like I want to be holy and set apart enough.
Yeah. That's a good question, man. I would say when I was about 16, I found out who my biological dad was when I was 14.
Okay.
And I found out riding in a car. And when they told me, I was like, well, you didn't have to tell me that because I feel like it's not going to change. Nothing's going to change. So my walk with God, I compared him to my natural father. So I was like, well, God, I know you're not going to come through because my dad had come through. But at 16, I was frustrated. I've ran away from home numerous of times, not knowing why I ran away. I was just kind of just running away, trying to get away, you know. And that's when I kind of started letting God into those secret places in my heart, because I was acting out because I was trying to like seek help, show people like, hey, I'm here, I want help, I want attention. So I would say at 16 is when I was like, all right, I really gotta get serious with God. I really have to like show him like, I need help in this, I'm hurt, I feel rejected, I feel like an orphan, like nobody sees me. And for me as a young boy, all I wanted from my dad, I didn't want presents, I didn't want money, all I wanted was time. So for me, I was seeking time, and that's at 16. I think that's when I was really like, all right, God, I'm serious. I gotta like walk it out with you. I still made mistakes along those lines, but that's when I kind of got real serious with my relationship and knew God to be real for myself.
No, I like that. I think like one thing you said, what was interesting was like expressing the hurt part.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a dude, as a man, it's so hard to do that.
Yeah.
Even for me, like being married, sometimes it's hard for me to like express, hey, I'm hurting. And I think I did that for the first time. And Jay Park can attest to this. I think it happened for the first time a couple weeks ago when I was texting. I was like, hey, I'm hurting. And it wasn't like because I was at the gym, so you're hurting physically. Did you hurt yourself? And I was like, no, like I'm emotionally like hurting, right? Yeah. So I think for you to be able to express that, I think is like a great trait to have.
Yeah. And that's hard, man. Like, I think being married, like, and telling our wives that is like, I felt like I would be less of a husband or like less of a man.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had to deal with this hurt like in silence. So a lot of times she used to ask me like, are you hurt? And I'm like, how dare you ask me that? No,
yeah,
I'm not
right.
You know? And I didn't start to get healed from that really, man, until 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, man. That I really started getting healed of father wounds. And it wasn't until I met Eliza, because I couldn't do it like on my own, and I tried to do it on my own. And my mom couldn't help me because she was going through her things with my father too. So it was like she, you know, somebody that's broken can't help another person that's broken. You know what I mean? So
y'all both injured parties.
Yeah, man. So we were both gonna end up on the same step, crying every time we tried to do this thing. So yeah, bro, it was hard, and like you said, man, I just had to at times text and be like, I'm frustrated, I'm hurting, I'm tired, I'm angry. And that's when I really started to like be healed by God.
Yeah.
So I know you expressed like your perception of God, like, you know, comparing him to your natural father and thinking like he's not going to come through for something, and then, you know, you kind of changed and started inviting him in. Yeah. Was there like a specific moment to where, you know, you were, you know, doing different things or your lifestyle was a certain way, but, you know, like you called on God in a specific manner and he did show up, that kind of like changed the way you were thinking?
Yeah, so I used to smoke weed a lot. Like, I wasn't addicted to it, but I liked smoking weed because I felt as if I was on top of what I was struggling with. And I felt like when I hit the joint, I would have more fun than I was having when I was sober. And then when I hit the joint, like, my perspective on this hurt, I won't think it's hurt, I'll think it's just, it's whatever, you know? So I used to smoke to escape. And I would escape for minutes, moments, maybe hours, but then I'll end right back up there. And it was a time where I smoked, man. I was with my cousin, and I literally like started calling on God. Like, I was like, God, I need you. God, I need you. And like, I literally, like, no lie, heard a voice, and he was like, I'm here, but you have to accept me. And ever since then, that moment, I realized that God came, spoke to me in that moment, and I felt convicted about smoking after that, because I was like, if he's speaking to me and I'm doing wrong, because I knew smoking was wrong. Right. So if he's speaking to me and I'm doing wrong, like, I can't do this and still be able to connect with him the right way, and in a pure way. And ever since then, man, from that day forward, I realized that God wasn't like my father, because I only saw my father when I was being punished. So every time I got suspended, he'll come up, punish me. But when it was a football game, when it was graduation, excuse.
That's
So
crazy. Wow.
once I saw God show up for me in the midst of sinful things or things that probably wasn't good, I was like, okay, I get this man named Jesus that I've been grown up being taught about is real, and he's not just here for the lights and glamour.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think here's the thing. I think that's interesting because I feel like everyone has this perception of God.
Yeah.
That is very true, right?
Yeah.
But the perception of the fire and brimstone,
Yeah.
Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Wiping out the whole earth, right? But people don't realize that the reason he did those things was because of the love that he has. And I think kind of what you're saying is like realizing Jesus is holy, God is holy, right? So he is there for those moments of discipline, but he's also there for those moments of like, when you graduated, the father was looking down and saying, man, I'm proud of my son.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like whenever you had your football games, man, I'm proud of my son. Right? So it's just like for you to be able to experience that is amazing. I think for me, like when I lost my mom whenever I was like 1. And obviously my dad remarried, right? My mom now is freaking amazing. Latavia. I shot my mom. But I did realize the hurt that came with that was real. Yeah. And, you know, for a while, I don't know if you can test this, but even for a while, I would look for that motherly love in other women. Yeah. And I'm like, and the Lord like kind of checked me. It was like, hey, that love, I understand it's empty, it's void, right? Yeah. And I know you have questions for me for why it's even void to begin with, right? Because that's a question that you can ask. You know, I bet even for you, it's like, okay, Lord, like, but why? Yeah. Like, why does that need to happen? Yeah. But I realized, like down the road, like you were saying, it's just like realizing that was it Abba? Is Abba Father or like that? Just that love, right? Yeah. So like, or what is the kind of love that
agape love?
Agape love. Yeah. There we go. Agape love is having that is just life changing. Yeah. Because it's like, despite what we do, despite what we say, what we don't do, what we don't say, his love is consistent. Yeah. And that just, I feel like sometimes it's hard to comprehend love that's consistent. Yeah. Always. It never stops. It never settles. It's consistent. It's powerful. It's heavy every single time. So I think we were having a conversation this morning with Anna about grace, but I think it kind of goes into like, what were we saying about grace this morning? Like in those moments where like we desire, I was saying before, we desire to be obedient. Yeah. We desire to be, to be sanctified, right? But it's like when we trip, that grace is there to like help us, knowing we're trying to live for him. Right. So I would ask you like, okay, you had that moment. Smoking weed, right? Smoking weed, and the Lord said, "Heck, I need you to give me access, right? I need you to want me to, right?" And I kind of know I'm paraphrasing. What was it like after that? Was it a complete like cut? Was it like hey, gradually, like walk us through what that looked like? Yeah. So, when I told God that, I then met Eliza. Okay. And I met Eliza, and now we were strictly friends when we first met, but she was like, in like the most nicest way, kindest way, not even judgmental way. She's like, hey, I don't like anybody like that smokes. Like, I don't want to be friends with somebody that smokes. Yeah. And for me, I'm like, okay, well, I guess we won't be friends. Because I was like, I'm gonna smoke. Right. So, I was like, okay. So it was times where I knew I was gonna meet up with her later. I'll smoke, brush my teeth, put mouthwash in my mouth, all of this stuff. And I'm like, all right, she ain't gonna be able to tell. I get in the car, I'm on my phone, I'm like, all right, I smoke. And I'm telling her this, and I'm just like just confiding with her, and just like being open and honest with her and telling her. And it wasn't until I met her to where the love that she had for me doing wrong made me change. Oh, wow. The love that she had for me doing wrong made me change. So if I can kind of just tell you to get somebody in your corner, get somebody in your life that will love you and you're wrong, but not allow you to stay there, but the love of them will have you change. And it's kind of like that agape love. Not saying she's not my God or giving me what God gives me, but she's a form, God has sent her in a form of him to like
just loved me like through that all, man. And I never knew I needed that, but that's the thing that stopped it, bro. So I would say I met her,
Like
and
since you like you knowing you had that desire, right, and knowing
Yeah.
it would probably be harder for you on your own since you that helpmate.
yeah, that helped me.
To
And I didn't even know she was a helpmate.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, a wife is a wife before you put a ring on her finger. Like,
Yeah.
so it, like a helpmate, it was crazy because 2019, I didn't know in 2021 we would be getting married. But, or no, 2022 we would be getting married. But like, it was just destined. So I stopped. It was kind of like cold turkey, bro, because
Yeah.
I met her, and I would say probably, I guess, a month and some change after that. I had stopped, but then I probably picked back up a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I stopped again. But it was very like rapid because again, she never told me to stop. But I could tell the better she wanted for me. I could feel it. So I wanted to stop.
That's
good.
it's. I feel like it. I don't know why this verse keeps getting brought up in every conversation we have.
Yeah.
Is in 2 Corinthians about the fragrance of Christ,
Yeah.
and that's what she was.
Yeah.
She was the fragrance of Christ.
Yeah.
And when he diffused the fragrance he has, right? When as believers we're called to be that fragrance, and
Yeah.
when like think about a diffuser, right?
Yeah.
Let's put those essential oils in it,
Yeah.
and it diffuses throughout the house.
Yeah.
Her
That's so
doing
good.
that in that car, saying nothing about it.
Yeah.
Her just being the fragrance of Christ, being that aroma, right?
Yeah.
And it says that the aroma was the aroma of Christ is either life or death, right?
Yeah.
And in that moment, it was life. Her aroma was life to your spirit,
Yeah.
but was death to your flesh,
Yeah.
right? So it was like for you not to have to, her not to have to say anything,
Yeah.
but you to be on your phone and be like, I smoke.
Yeah.
That alone, it's just like she didn't even know that the aroma she had was
Yeah.
convicting you to the point of, does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes
but
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
sense because I believe that as she brought something out of me, I brought something out of her.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where she's like, I didn't even have to say nothing. But, she didn't get big headed in that moment. It was
Yeah.
like,
It's humility.
it's something that's on me or it's a gift that's in me
Mm-hmm.
that's causing him not to just identify what he's doing wrong, but to change what he's doing.
there's two
And I
things,
think
right.
that's the most powerful thing. A lot of people get connected with people and they're like, oh, I know this is wrong, but the person that they just connected with isn't helping them stop doing it.
Right.
It's just like, and I'm just not saying this just to say it, but it's just like with John, man. Like meeting John and him meeting you through your brother, man. It was just, I first met John. I told him, I was like, man, this dude is cool. He's the same age as me, man, and I can tell he's mature. Like, it's just, I want to be around him because it's
Right.
something good.
Yeah.
Your spirit is good and stuff like that, to where it made me just want to be a better person from how you carry yourself, how you talk to people, how you're very like welcoming and very like encouraging. It's just something about you. Your aroma made me want to better me as an individual and as a
Yeah.
man. So yeah.
Real, bro.
Yeah.
That's dope. I don't know. I think that's where we can get so. Carter. What?
They for sure you on purpose.
They did that on purpose.
Can we looked around?
They did that on purpose.
For sure you did it on purpose.
All right. Anyways,
Yeah.
we good. Spirit of God.
No, and I think that's the thing too. It's like, let's again going to what we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
About how, in a relationship, right? Even friendships, it's like if you're in a relationship with somebody else, and no, either one of you guys isn't growing, in your relationship with God, then that relationship is unfruitful.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm proud to say is like I feel like our relationship from the jump has been super fruitful. Especially in the season that we were in, and the reason why we met and things that we were walking out together. And it's like, in different moments where, it's been hard for us, like being able to find that strength to not only, have that community, but that community, at least for me, helped me to reflect in gain clarity on the things that the Lord was doing truly in the season, and making sure that my mind was stayed on the purpose for what we were doing. So I got to thank you for that one for sure. But man, hearing your testimony is like, it's such a testament to just the goodness of God, and kind of how this thing that we were talking about before, about how the Lord constantly pursues us, right? And how no matter what, like, we can be doing what we're doing and our actions to try to get closer to him, but he's doing twice as much work to pursue us where we're at, right? And it's like that being still sometimes, right? Like it took you, in that moment, it wasn't you doing actions, it was just simply you coming to a place of surrender where you were, and being like, look, I can't, like, there's no more ground for me to cover right here because I'm stuck. I need you to come here, God. And that's the moment where he was able to reach you at. And then from there, it takes off.
You know what's interesting? I just thought about this. Okay. Right. Okay, so in the Gospels, and I'm going to have to double check, but I'm just thinking about a lot of stories in the Gospels is either two things when people are being healed. They either come to Jesus or they're at a place physically where they just cannot. Okay, so the leper man, right? Had to be isolated because no one wanted to be around him because
that was law.
Right? The guy who couldn't walk. It's very self-explanatory. Can't walk, right? The other thing I'm thinking about is when they touched the garment, right? They were healed, right? Or he felt it, right? Like, someone touched my garment, right? The faith that took to do that. People taking their friends on top of the roof and going through the roof to get him healed, right? So it's like, man, thank you, Lord, is that it takes stillness and surrender. I feel like those are the two things I'm getting at. Stillness and surrender. It's to be able to be still, and like you were saying about our heart posture, right? And also spiritually, mentally, but surrender. It's to the point of like, even if I look crazy, surrendering my pride, surrendering my ego, surrendering it looking cool, or being, in with culture, whatever. No, it's not about that. It's just about, we have the ministry, we have the responsibility to be ministry of reconciliation. It's to reconcile people to Christ. And it's like, we can't expect it to look great, but we have to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to being still and surrendering when it comes to our heart posture.
That's good.
And I think that's kind of like what I'm getting from what you were saying is like, you're being still, right, and understanding, okay, I have something I need to work on. That's one. Two, surrendering to the point of, okay, I'm surrendering what I think it's going to look like, right? Becoming friends with her right now, obviously that being very fruitful to now y'all are married, right? But it's just interesting. I'm just seeing those two things, just being still and surrendering. I feel like that's just so important. I think that's one thing that I even struggle with is the surrendering part. So honestly, now I'm thinking, I think I deal with both. It's like, it goes handy because some days, some weeks, I can be still, but I can't surrender.
I think
some days it's like,
man.
So it's just, that's something that's really, really big.
It's that surrendering part. That surrender part is very big. The still part is huge, but that surrendering part, because like you said, we see it in the Bible, man, and everybody like had to do it. And I thought about the Samaritan woman at the well. In order for her to even encounter Jesus, it had to be a moment where she was still at a place, and then she still had to surrender to what he was telling her to do. And in that time, she couldn't even talk to Jesus, So for her to even do that, and what I've learned, bro, is whatever makes you uncomfortable, 9 times out of 10 is what God has asked you to do. That's going to bless not only you, but it blessed the whole town for her. And she freed a whole town because she was still and she surrendered. And the stillness was her being at the well, and the surrenderance was her doing what, again, this man that she wasn't even supposed to be talking to lawfully, like it was illegal, in other words, to even speak to Jesus. But she had to be still in that moment and surrender to him, man, and she freed a lot of other people. And now what I've realized is everybody I embark on that has dealt with father wounds and everything, it had to take a level of me to be still and like be like, God, I can't do this, and surrender my thoughts that I had towards my father, surrender my plans that I had towards him. Oh, when I talk to him, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I had to just surrender that, man, and just let God do the work.
Man, it's sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm like thinking back on like, you know, that testimony, and it's like, you described it yourself. You said like you were running from it the entire time, right? And it's like, in that, you know, it's like you're running from it, but in that moment, God is like, finally, you stop running.
Yeah.
You know, you actually got to a place where you're still mentally, emotionally. You know, and sometimes when we're running from things, the only way we can be still and stop running is because we're exhausted. Our bodies literally can't run anymore, right? Like we're sitting here doing sprints and marathons. You know, we're running track from God, but you know, our bodies can only keep it up for so long before it gives out on us.
You can't be caught running. Like it's people like, God save me, but I'm running. Like, how can God save us if we're running? It's just, and again, He can do it, but He's a free will God. Like, so I think that's where He reigns so much supreme, to where He can do something, but He's so respectful. That's what makes us honor Him even more. And like, again, I can't be running and be like, hey, John, come pick me up. And you're like, I'm right here, but you keep running from a place where you're telling me to meet you at. And like, you won't ever be able to be picked up here because you're running away from this place. So one thing I learned was, man, I was running but asking to be captured. And I could only have been captured if I was still and surrendered.
The one thing I think we'll leave it with this is that whenever the rich young ruler, right, went to Jesus and said, well, you know, Lord, how do I enter your kingdom? He said, well, you know, I've kept these things as a boy, right?
So good.
And he said that Jesus loved him and looked at him and said, all right, sell all your things to the poor and come follow me. And he walked away sad. And I think that is the flip side of what we don't do when we don't stay still and surrender. He couldn't be still and surrender his money, that was his God. That was his idolatry, right? And he walked away. And it just shows you that, and it was interesting, is that those things that he did, people could see. And I'm pulling this from when I listened to Philip Mitchell with this exact same sermon. I think it applies here. But he was saying that those commandments he said he did, it was outward things we would see him do. But the inward part was that he couldn't surrender his stuff. So it's not even important. It's important that we do the things that people can see, but if we are dealing with idolatry in our hearts and can't surrender it, what do we expect to gain, right? So I think just what you were saying is like, you know, you had to do some surrendering in your heart. You had to do some being still in your heart, not just showing it outwardly, but eternally showing stillness and being surrendering. So, you know, hopefully, again, I would say this at the end, but hopefully this is beneficial to y'all. We're doing this, we're saying these things, not because we have it all together. It's because we're working on these things now. So, again, we love y'all. Get in your word. These are the only reason we're having these conversations, able to have these things and say these things and look back on these things. It's one, because of the Spirit of God and how powerful He is, but also His word is where it starts. That's where sanctification happens. So we love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Peace, guys.
Peace.